So with that, I'd answer any questions.
I know that we are a week into the season.
Well, we wouldn't. Well, first, we would never push Russell or any player for that matter, like onto the floor because of a specific date. You know what I'm saying? Like, the season starts on this date, so I think that would be foolish, and we've never done that. So we wouldn't start doing that now. He's going to be reevaluated. It was a pretty minor thing that he had to have done, and he'll be back. We'll see how that reevaluation goes. But then you've got to work through rehab to non-contact to contact to and then you got to get back to the level that you play at normally. So it's a process, but having Dennis is kind of a separate thing, I think, than really that's not determining Russell's recovery. Having Dennis is great for us. I think, as I said before, there's silver linings in all of the different adversities that we faced over the years, even though at the time some of them have been hard to identify. But I think that's one of the things that we're most proud of is when we are delivered situations, whether they're within our control or not. Okay, how do we make this positive? How do we work on this? And I think with Dennis, I mean, he's going to get a ton of opportunity to work with Paul George, Billy Donovan, his new teammates. We're going to learn a lot about his game. To me, that's a great opportunity. Of course, it makes it a lot better going through that, knowing that Russell's coming back pretty soon. But what can we scrape out of this situation to inform us of how we can be a better team? In some ways, it compartmentalizes things. You're going to be having to do a lot of things in training camp, and now, unfortunately, without Russell, that's going to limit what you can do with that. So it allows you to put that much more focus on building the infrastructure of the team without Russell, and then allowing him to assimilate back. I feel like I should touch on Dre, just because I think the next question is going to be on Dre. So I've done this long enough to just save everybody the time. So with respect to Dre, he's doing well. He's back on the floor. He's going to go through parts of training camp with us, non-contact. So you'll probably see him shooting. You might see him doing some scripting. He's got to work himself from the non-contact part to contact, and then obviously he's got to get back to like performance, which would be game situations. I can't tell you exactly when that's going to be. We don't think we're going to be without him very long, but again, this is medicine. This is human performance. This is body. So sitting up here and saying this is when that's going to happen, I can't tell you. All I can tell you is that he's doing a lot more this week than he was doing last week, and he's through the hardest part of this recovery process, and he's back with the ball in his hands and scripting things and on the treadmill and all those types of stuff. But both of those guys, we feel good that we'll have them at some point relatively early in the year.
Is there anything you'd like to add to the team this year?
Well, the thing, yeah, always. I think the trick for us, and one of the things that is inherent in roster building, or really just anything that you're trying to improve, is every time you do something to improve, you are creating another situation somewhere else. Like, you're never going to get to perfect. Like, that just probably doesn't exist. In order to get Dennis Schroeder, like, that's going to create something somewhere else. You can't solve one thing without it disrupting something else. So that's why teams are constantly evolving. I'd love for us to have more shooting. I mean, I think you look at the team and you say, well, on paper, if we look at these numbers, like I totally see that. So there's three ways in which we can improve that. One, like, we can go out and try to find someone that's a better shooter than what we have, but they have to be better than the players we currently have at the existing positions. So that's one thing. And then obviously we're pretty limited in terms of our team building tools and mechanisms because of the cap system. Second thing would be guys can step up and make some shots. Like, that's another way you can get better is, we need some guys to make some shots. And I think that, all of our guys are capable and talented, and I expect them to make some shots. That's another way you can become a better shooting team. And then the other way would be if you know, if we're not making shots, like what kind of shots are we taking? So in today's day and age, like if there's shots that aren't really good shots or high quality shots, not taking them and distributing that possession to another place on the floor could actually make us a much better shooting team. So how efficiently are you playing? How good are the shots that you're taking? Sometimes you can become a much better shooter by taking the ones that are really good for you. Dre's a great example of that. Shot 56% from the floor last year. And he did that simply by taking the ones that were right there for him, that were right in his wheelhouse. I gave a book to a lot of people in our organization this summer. I think it's an unbelievable book. I just stumbled upon it, and I've heard about it for years, but The Science of Hitting by Ted Williams. I mean, that book is brilliant. And I think it applies to everything, not just sports, but and it's all about decisions. And it's all about choice, and it's all about restraint, and it's all about discipline, and his insight into his craft is just unbelievable. And I think that's why, you know, that you get to 400 by swinging at the pitches you want to swing at, you know, not the ones that the pitcher's choosing for you to swing at. And I think that speaks to some of the ways that we ourselves can maybe move the needle in some areas.
Do you see Dennis in sort of a Reggie Jackson type of role, or something different for him, perhaps?
Well, I mean, so first thing with Dennis, the thing with him that's really struck me, when you really start to dig into him and think about him, is the guy's 24 years old. I mean, he's younger than Steven. He's younger than Alex. He's the same age as Jeremy. He's the same age as who else is in that group? I was looking at it. Anyway, 24 is young. But he's got a ton of experience, which I think is really beneficial. So what kind of role do we foresee him in? I don't know. I think his skill set is really, really well aligned to the way that we and Billy, sees the team playing. And Billy specifically, like, really feels like paint attacks are going to be really important for our team. And Dennis is a guy that lives in the paint, and having multiple people that can do that creatively is, I think, an important part for our team. I wouldn't want to put any limitations or say you need to be this person. We have had a lot of success with a player like that, like a dynamic ball handler with Russell, so I think there's opportunity there, but he's going to have to develop that, and he has a lot of work to do. I mean, he's only 24, and his best basketball is way in front of him. Obviously for him, like, maybe the biggest impact he can have on our team right away is defensively. And he has the chance to be an elite defender, and we've got to get him back to that.
Russell's going to come back, and then, he and Dennis are going to be guys that could potentially play together. How do you envision that working, considering that they're two guys who have games that are both predicated off of pick and roll?
Sure. I think that's one of the things we talked a lot about. Billy, when we were talking about potentially adding Dennis, he loves the idea of having, another ball handler like that on the floor, and really sees a ton of value in getting to the paint from multiple angles on the floor. Again, I think the way the game is today, like, the people pick up on patterns. That's how human beings operate. They recognize patterns. That's how we learn everything. So the more creative and the different ways in which people are attacking and coming from things. I don't like. One of our assistant coaches made a good point to me the other day. He said, random seems uncontrolled or unplanned. So not just random play, but like creative play, I guess, is the way that Europe is really looking at how offense is changing. I think that Dennis and Russell together gives us more creativity on the floor, and also they have an advantage all the time. Now, if there's multiple people on the floor that you don't know where that's coming from, and those guys can make those plays, it just opens up more options for us. But that's something we thought about and we talked about, and And I think our coaches put a huge premium on that ability to get to the paint. And we have some other guys that, you know, we're working with to see if they can continue to do that as well. But the trade-off is the shooting. I mean, we understand that, but there's other ways for us to score and generate offense, and then defensively, those two guys should be excellent together.
Have you received any more insight into this?
No.